After learning the urban texture stitching strategy, we continue to learn the second transformation strategy of city architecture symbiosis, urban interface guidance. The scope of the city's spatial interface, including the building interface, the outer environment bottom interface, and the top interface. The building interface is mainly composed of the building facade, including the accessory walls, etc. The interface of the external environment is the horizontal interface beneath our feet and the empty interface overhead, protecting and controlling the urban interface to obtain the community of historic building and external environment is an important factor in ensuring the integrity of historical environment. You may find a phenomenon that we use a whole intuitive ability to grasp the whole understanding of a certain object at the beginning when we observe it. This continuity will be reflected in the visual properties of the building's street interface, that is, the relationship of the building's style, height, material, and color, detail, and so on. Therefore, in the design of the protection and reuse of historical buildings, besides maintaining the visual integrity and readability of building's own interface, it is necessary to take a spatial interface of the surrounding historical environment into consideration from the perspective of city. Next, we will learn two methods: the continuity of urban space interface and the guidance of historical environment. First, let's learn how to achieve continuity of urban space interface by design. When a historical building is in a continuous urban interface, the surrounding urban interface usually shows unidentifiable homogeneity, mainly because of the neighborhood in historical buildings are mostly the products of the same period, showing relatively uniform interface features such as similar construction mode, material tone, rhythm of the facade, composition, and decorative style, etc. In this case, the historical building will be strongly constrained by the surrounding urban interface. The regeneration of the interface needs to refine the internal control logic of the urban interface and reshape the interface based on it, emphasizing the consistency and connection of the interface as much as possible. Of course, in a controlled proportion, it is also feasible to change the urban interface with variation in form and activate the interface into a certain contrast. In a continuous urban interface, it is necessary to preserve the original of the whole interface and the space structure of the historical building as much as possible. However, when the newly installed function and the space capacity of the historical building conflict with each other, the skin of the original historical building can be used as the lowest bottom line of the reused design. We take the Hearst building as an example, the predecessor of which was the 6-story stone building built in 1928, and the architect Forrest, in his design, completely preserved the iconic concrete stone facade of the 6-story building, demolished the interior, and built the 46-story stainless steel glass building from it. As is shown, a new glass body is placed vertically in the building, but the new part recedes from the historic walkway. At the same time, the burring of the glass is used to reduce the impact of the new body on the historic interface. When people walk on the 8th Avenue, the Art Deco style of the old Hearst building and the surrounding building form a continuous urban space in terms of style, height, and color. while the new part is creatively detached from the surrounding environment. This transformation is based on historical context and at the same time reshapes the characteristics of the place. This is when the historical building is at the continuous city interface. When the historical building is in an independent and open city interface, the surrounding building does not give direct restriction to it. At this time, the restriction comes from the surrounding material and human environment, such as the city space order, space, atmosphere, culture, metaphor, symbol, etc. In this case, the new and old buildings can break away from the limitation of historical style and reinform and highlight of historical spatial interface of the city by reshaping the contrasting interface. In the reconstruction and expansion project of Tangshan Museum, the old building is backed by Phoenix Mountain and is located in an open field. The surrounding environment does not restrict the interface. However, the square in front of the building is the most popular public space of the citizens and a space that carries the memory of the city. There is an intangible limitation of the cultural environment. In the new section, the architects use modern materials such as white volume panels and super white glazed glass, which both widens the age distance from the old building and weakens the volume of the addition, thus highlighting the historical building. Whether it is daytime and night, when you overlook the old and new buildings of the museum in the square or take a closer look at the newly built part, the pure enclosed space obscure the new body and the external environment, keeping the focus on the old buildings all the time, and thus the historical architectural environment is not destroyed by the new elements. The above is the continuous method of urban space interface to achieve continuation and reconstruction of historical environment. The following is about how to achieve continuation of urban context with the guidance of historical environmental vision. In the fourth chapter, we have mastered the scope of the surrounding environment of a heritage of integrity, principle of protection and design, and mentioned that the protection of historical buildings should not only include protecting the building itself, but also dealing with the visual relationship between historical building and the surrounding environment, such as roads, squares, green, etc., to give people a complete impression. In the design of adaptive reuse of historical buildings, you should analyze the regional spatial scale relationship between historical buildings and their surrounding environment, as well as visual experience of people when they are moving in the space environment through the limitation and requirements of the visual law on the spatial scale. Specifically, it is necessary to carry out the corresponding space enclosure treatment according to the visual law of the visual distance and the building height, so as to obtain the best building height control and the road widen ratio in the environment. When we do building expansion, we should fully consider the blocking relationship between the new and the old building volumes, especially in the case of limited space. Using the receding and implicit space expansion strategy can achieve good vision control. The expansion of the National Maritime Museum is a case in point of vision control. Founded in 1807, the museum is an important part of Greenwich World Maritime Heritage in London. In the 2006 expansion competition, 7,300 square meters additional space was needed. The architect studies from the space vision control to expand this sensitive historical site with minimal intervention. In the section shown in the figure, he placed the main volume of the new building, about 7,700 square meters underground, and the design of the above-ground part also fully considered the unobstructed view of the surrounding area. Another successful example of historical environment vision guidance is renovation of Phoenix No. 1 Warehouse, Rotterdam. The Phoenix No. 1 Warehouse is a renovation project that incorporates 45,000 square meters of multifunctional space and a unique steel frame structure into a historic warehouse. The design aims to integrate the new and the old instead of forming opposition, with the main principle of linking the building to the surrounding environment. How does it integrate with its surroundings? Combining the cross-section and the perspective drawings, we can see that the architect has raised the facade towards the Raillingham port side, adding 9 floors to the existing warehouse, which makes it more appropriate to the scale of the nearby buildings when looking from the port. The facade facing the south side of Vernon Street is limited to a height of 4 stories to match the ground floor building around Cathedral. Such a different receding treatment allows the transformed building to successfully engage in a dialogue with its surroundings. It is also an excellent design case that students can refer to in future design. Let's summarize the contents of this section. With case study, we have learned 2 strategies for guiding the urban interface: the continuity of urban space interface and the guidance of historical environmental vision, hoping that students can understand, learn, and apply it flexibly in the future design practice.